Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric. Today we're just going to do a reaction video. I'm going to watch this video called Why Chinese EVs Are Killing People by Serpentza. See what kind of stuff he has to say about it. See how much of it is nonsense. Haven't watched it yet, so we're going to find out together and just have hopefully a good reaction here. So let's do it.
This is what happens when an electric vehicle's lithium-ion battery gets damaged in a collision.
All right, so just to start, not to be pedantic or anything, but he says this is what happens when a lithium-ion vehicle's battery gets damaged in a collision. This is what could theoretically, potentially happen. I don't know if he's going to be saying all EVs now apparently are dangerous. If they get damaged at all, they will blow up, catch on fire. I don't know. Let's keep going.
The risk of a fiery explosive death is higher than any EV owner would like to acknowledge. This man simply wanted to drive his car when it suddenly alerted him to a fault and started catching fire. Thank goodness it alerted him in time.
Okay, so he just said that this car alerted him to a fault before, anything really catastrophic happened. He could get out of the car, exit the car, and not burn up. So it seems to be that it's working as intended.
But it's not just the threat of a fiery self-immolation that fancy new Chinese EVs pose. No, of your seat.
I'm so scared, oh my God.
One of the things you can expect with new fancy EVs are lots of high-tech features. Things like self-driving, self-parking. Unfortunately, this is what happened when a Chinese man used the self-parking feature on his
I like how the
fancy
music cuts
new
in
EV.
real quick just to let
See,
you
the
know
car
how you're
got
supposed to feel,
confused,
right?
and instead of parking, it drove directly into moving traffic. This could have been a massive disaster.
Oh, the music is getting even more intense. Okay, so this little video right here is Li Auto self-parking, and obviously it's not great that it drove itself into traffic, but you can see that it still did have its anti-collision, sensors going. It almost hit that Sanlin the tricycle that just passed, but you could see the brake lights come on. It stopped. You could also argue that this would be user error because the user put the self-parking on and then left. Actually, you're supposed to stay there and make sure it actually parks correctly, and you can use the app on your phone to stop it if it's not parking correctly. So this is user error, not necessarily car error, maybe a little bit of both. Obviously the car is not supposed to drive into traffic or leave the parking lot or anything like that, but what can I say? It's a mistake for the car and for the user, but the car still did avoid collisions. Still, that music, so intense, right? Oh my God, I'm so frightened.
Smashing into other cars, motorized tricycles, trash cans, and more.
So that one looks like a Neo. Yeah, that's a Neo. Basically, anytime there's been, a runaway car, not just in China, but in the last few years in general, it's been almost always user error. I've never heard of any incident where it's the car's error, where the car is just driving. They did show a little bit of the clip of the dash cam. I'd have to look further into it. But on a Neo, you can actually see on the dash cam like what inputs are being done by the driver. So you could actually see if we actually had the proper, like the raw footage of that dash cam. You could see if the foot was on the accelerator or the foot was on the brake pedal, or if it was in auto drive, like autonomous driving, full self-driving, that sort of thing. Presumably it was probably driver error, but who knows?
If you look at the car, the airbags didn't deploy.
So I'm not an expert, don't quote me on this, but actually airbags don't always need to deploy. It depends on the type of collision. Obviously this is a frontal collision, they probably should have deployed, but was there anybody actually in the passenger seat or the driver's seat, assuming there was a driver in the car? Probably they should have deployed, but also potentially not. It all depends on the actual details of this accident and who was in the car. So
if you think about it, you spent more time with your wallet than just about anyone or
oh,
anything.
Advertisement.
I mean,
I don't know who would
wallets
advertise
are
on
an everyday thing.
Serpentza's
They go on
videos,
romantic
but
dates with you, they go
some
on
people don't have
holidays
any
to the
standards, I
beach,
guess.
overseas. For some reason, feels very cool and tactical.
My God. He just said that the coin holder feels tactical. I know he's not American, but he seems to be integrating into America very well, that he needs a tactical coin holder. Fast forward.
Mechanism,
Tactical
making
coin
it
holder.
all metal. The new technology like self-parking, sure. It's still a fairly new thing, but even so, if it's confused, it should have a fail-safe shut-off feature rather than try and drive into the middle of a busy road. Why is it that Chinese EVs are failing these very basic safety features?
Again, he said it should have a fail-safe feature. Obviously, it does. The driver is not supposed to leave the area where the car is parking. The driver can control it with his mobile phone. Okay, I can definitely understand some arguments that you shouldn't even have features like this. Autonomous driving is dangerous. In the United States as well, with Tesla everywhere, it can be very, very dangerous to have autonomous features on your car. But fail-safe is the human actually needs to take some responsibility. He should have been there making sure his car parked properly, and he can stop it with his phone at any time. And still, again, the car stopped when it was going to hit things. So not ideal, but it did its job, more or less.
And why are there so many EV-related fires and accidents in China? So much so that places are banning EVs from underground parking lots all over China.
Why are there so many EV-related fires and accidents in China? You know, I don't know that there are. We'd have to look at the stats for that, but just on like a kind of a basis of thinking, like there's far more EVs in China than anywhere else in the world. As of right now, we're at like 50% monthly sales are EVs, whether it's battery electric vehicles or hybrid, extended range hybrid, plug-in hybrid vehicles. It's over 50%. There's millions and millions of cars on the road. Again, I don't know that there are so many EV fires in China, but just you think about the numbers of how many cars are on the road. Of course, there are bound to be some fires in China. So I don't see any stats, any data in his video. I don't know that cars are being banned from underground parking lots all over China. I did see an article, maybe the same article. It said it was like Zhejiang province or Jiangsu province, I forgot, like a hotel. That doesn't mean they're banned all over China. You can go any parking garage in China with your EV. As far as I know, anywhere I've driven in EVs, and I've driven all over China. You can watch on this channel, I've driven all over China. You can see my most recent video, I was parked underground in a parking garage and nobody stopped me. Nobody cares. Almost every car down there is an EV. There's fast charging down there. There's lots of even underground parking with power swap stations from NEO. There's chargers everywhere, every mall, every housing development. You know, if one or two places are banning EVs from parking there, okay, that's one thing, but they're not being banned all over China. There would be nowhere to park. Like, use your brain a little bit, just think logically for a second. If there's millions and millions of cars on the road that are electric, most car parking in China is in a parking garage, underground parking. If they were banned all over China, there would be literally nowhere for you to park. So obviously that's not true.
There is no homegrown Chinese engine, just derivatives based on existing technology.
Okay, he says there's no homegrown China engine, just derivatives based on existing technology. Every single engine, you know, developed essentially from the first one to now has been a derivative that people have learned from each other and built on existing technology and developed new ideas for how to build it. Not just engines, anything in general. Nothing comes from zero. Like, you can't expect China to build an engine from scratch. You know, like, that's just nonsense. It's ridiculous to even think about. Every single brand, every single car company is building things based on what has come before.
I owned and drove a brand new Chinese car for 10 years. Problems that you wouldn't ever expect would crop up.
So it looks to me like he's driving like a Cherry, probably a very, very budget model Cherry. He says lots of problems popped up that you wouldn't expect. He's probably driving a car that's like 100,000 RMB, which probably the time he bought it, he says he drove it for 10 years, he bought it brand new. I think he left China like 2017 or 18, something like that. I'm gonna say he probably bought the car in 2009, 2008, something like that. It was probably a $14,000 internal combustion engine car from a Chinese manufacturer. Obviously, there's gonna be lots of problems with this car. Like, I would not ever tell you that Chinese internal combustion engine cars, even now, are that great. But let's say 15 years ago, or whenever he bought this car, they weren't good. So if he thinks the car is bad, he bought a bad car. You know, why would he do that? That's his own problem, not necessarily anybody else's problem. You know, if he would have bought a good car, even a good Chinese car at that time, like a top of the line, whatever it would have been back then, probably not a Chinese branded car, probably a Chinese joint venture car, like, I don't know, a Volkswagen or something made by SAIC, for example. I don't know exactly. Probably would have been just fine, but looks like he's buying a Cherry, and probably a very cheap one at that. Like, I don't mean to like poverty shame or anything like that. If he wants to buy a cheap car, anybody, like, people should be able to buy reliable, cheap, affordable cars. Like, don't get it twisted. I'm just saying that if he thinks Chinese cars are so bad, he shouldn't have bought one, and he shouldn't have bought the cheapest one on the market. Like, what does he expect?
A far simpler thing to put together, especially if you already have Tesla to copy from.
All right, that's just like nonsense. He doesn't really know anything about, obviously, EVs. If you watch, you don't have to watch my channel, but if you watch any channel about Chinese EVs, especially people who are much more knowledgeable, you will find out that Chinese EVs are actually quite farther advanced than, say, Tesla in a lot of ways. I'm not going to say every single way, but China is not just copying Tesla. China is actually innovating in tons of ways with the EV market. So, you know, whatever. Okay, so this person just ran over like a bollard in the road, which would rip out the bottom of any car. Obviously, also a electric car here, it did. This is a bad driver, a bad situation, unfortunate. I would say that actually a lot of EVs these days, they have safer batteries, they thermal runaway, they're stronger on the bottom than this. But this could happen, like if you blow up a battery, the battery's gonna blow up. This is not normal, not good, but it happens if a person drives like a complete idiot.
There's also the responsibility side of things. I mean, recently Jeep had a massive recall, and this was due to concerns that the instrument panel in some Gladiator and Wrangler models could short out and fail. We've seen this happen a lot over the years in the automotive industry. When a quality control issue is identified, the manufacturers initiate recalls and fix or replace the problem. This is because of high standards.
Is he trying to say that American auto manufacturers or European auto manufacturers are responsible towards their users, towards their owners, and they'll proactively initiate recalls and do things for the good of their consumer? I don't know.
Problem not identified in China. Why was a recall only initiated once it was being sold in a foreign market? Simple. China is not a free country. And if you almost die due to your car bursting into flames or giving you a shock or the airbags not deploying, it'll be quietly settled. If you try to make a big thing out of it, you'll be taken care of.
Okay, I don't know anything about this. I haven't heard about this. Obviously, if they're electrocuting people and people are dying, even in China, that will be big news. Like, we're watching on his channel right now videos of fires and videos of cars being runaway, you know, accidents and things like that. There's cameras everywhere in China. There's massive amounts of social media, like more than you could believe. Everything won't just be suppressed. Yes, there is some limits. There are limits to information in China. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and like stand for the Chinese government and say there's like total massive amounts of free speech in China, anything like that. But you can clearly see that there's videos, there's discussion, there's all these things that happen in China around all kinds of topics, including EVs, including car industry. And if people are unplugging their car and getting electrocuted and dying, that wouldn't just be something that you could just ship to Australia and hope that nobody notices. This is not how the world works. This is not how China works. This is not how anything works. If that was a problem, I'd have to read the article. I'm sure it's probably been fixed by now, and that's how recalls work and things like that. But I don't think there was a massive amount of people pulling out their charging cable and dying in China, and then we just shipped it to another country. Not we, but China. Different markets have different standards. Even in the Chinese market, you're not allowed to electrocute and murder your consumers and just get away with it. That's not how China works. China could get away with killing a bunch of people in China and then shipping the product to Australia and hoping nobody notices that people are dying by unplugging their car. But just from like a logical perspective, I would assume that there was some software malfunction, some glitch somewhere, and it got noticed in Australia for some reason. But I don't think massive amounts of Chinese people were getting electrocuted and dying. In this video that he's showing in the background, there's CCTV footage, there's mobile phone footage. All the stuff would be widely shared, and in fact, it is widely shared in China all the time. There's always videos of everything happening, crazy things happening, not just EVs blowing up. He's just talking nonsense once again.
I hope you've learned something.
Okay, so just real quick to end this. Obviously, there are issues with some brands, with some cars. Some EVs, in fact, have problems. They've caught on fire. This is true. From my understanding, just looking at all the reports that I've ever read, is that actually internal combustion engine vehicles have a more risk for fire. They catch on fire far more often than EVs. However, with EVs, there's more, it's more difficult to put out the fire. There's more risk of thermal runaway. Actually, there's lots of issues with safety standards for many, many different things. Even you look at like Tesla in America, you can see people that can't get out of their car because the high voltage battery died or something, or it's on fire and they don't know where the actual manual door locks are. They're kind of hidden. There's people who can't get out of the Cybertruck because the glass is bulletproof and the firefighters can't get in. There's people who have burned up in the Cybertruck. Like, these are all things that actually really have happened, just like there really have been fires and things happen in China. But overall, EVs are actually far less likely to catch on fire, according to the stats I've read. And you're probably safer in an EV due to lots of the new technology that's out there. Of course, there are also some technologies that probably aren't really ready for prime time, like some self-driving systems or self-parking systems. You should be really more in control. The human should be there to make sure that it's working properly and be ready to take over any time. But overall, this is just another really, really ridiculous video from Serpentza. Clearly, he even has to add the scary music to tell you how you should feel, and tells you that, you know, you're going to be really, really scared. This should be shocking to you. Whatever. I shouldn't even give him the time. But I'm going to go park my EV underground and see if I don't get arrested. So see you guys later. Bye-bye.